I have a question. What's the difference between noise and music? And how do you make one into the other? And can anybody make music? I have a book about it. This is Benny's Symphony, and I'm so excited to read it to you. Ready to get noisy? Okay. Benny's parents took him to this weird thing called the Symphony. At first, it wasn't much to get excited about. The chairs were way too big. The hallway smelled like stinky flowers. And worst of all, a lady with great big giant hair was sitting right in front of him. Oh. And then the most amazing thing happened. Benny watched and listened with his eyes and ears wide open as an incredible bunch of sounds flew out at him, bigger and louder than anything he'd ever heard before. Shiny metal horns rang, things with strings hummed, and great big drums boomed so loudly that he could feel his teeth rattle. In any other place, at any other time, all of this would have been just noise. But here, it wasn't just noise. It was something different, something better. It was music. In front of this amazing blob of noise, with arms waving above the boomy drums, above the things with strings, and even above the lady with the big hair, was a tiny little person dressed like a penguin. Benny's parents called them the conductor. The conductor flapped and flailed like they were trying to take off. Strangely enough, the noises followed along with their flapping arms. When the conductor's arms wiggled like a fish, the noises went faster. When they dipped and swirled gently like a feather falling to the ground, the noises slowed down. When they stopped moving altogether, the noises went silent. And then the audience made their own noise, clapping like crazy. The amazing person in front of it all spun around, smiled proudly, and took a bow. Benny, like everyone around him, could not look away from this person. A conductor must be able to control all the noises in the universe, Benny thought. They could probably make dogs bark by wiggling their fingers. They could probably command toast to pop by flapping their elbows. Benny wanted to stand up and wave his arms too, to make all the noises come together at his command. But his parents kept yanking him back into his seat by his belt loops. While snuggled up in bed that night, Benny could still see the conductor's marvelous waving arms. He could still feel the seat rumble under him and the tiny hairs on the back of his neck stick straight up. He could still hear the noises swirling around him, coming together like a busy cloud of tiny butterflies. It took Benny ages to get his eyes to stay closed. Waking up the next morning in his very quiet house was a bit of a disappointment. There was nothing ringing through the kitchen. There was nothing humming in the living room. There was nothing booming in the front hallway. There wasn't so much as a ping, a zap, or a twiddle from the whole house. Benny rubbed his head 3 times clockwise, the way he always did when he was thinking. And then he had an idea. The pages are sticky. There we go. First, he wandered into the kitchen and grabbed the biggest pot he could find, the one they used to make way too spicy chili. He found 2 wooden spoons, each one as long as his arm. He banged and crashed on the pot until he was sweaty and almost out of breath. Next, he grabbed a can of oatmeal and he shook it until he was dizzy. Then he stuck his hands into the sink up to his elbows. He turned on the faucet and splashed and splunked and dribbled and splashed until the curtains were soaking wet and the floor made a splat splat noise when he walked across it. This is amazing, thought Benny. I'm doing this. I'm making music. With all the noises from the kitchen still playing together in his head, he knew there must be more to be discovered in the house. Other noises to be conducted. He bolted upstairs and grabbed his electric toothbrush. It whirred and whizzed as he waved it around in the air. Benny squished and squeezed a rubber ducky, and it replied with loud, happy squeaks. Next was the toilet, which he gave a couple of good thundering flushes. As the water sloshed in a circle, Benny spun on his heels. All right. He ran up and down the stairs, making huge thumpy noises as he went. He slammed books together. He rolled up a magazine and tootled it like a horn. Benny even found sounds that he could make by himself. He pulled up his pajama shirt and played his tummy with the palms of his hands. He made armpit noises, just like Grandpa did when the other grown-ups weren't listening. He clicked his tongue on the roof of his mouth and made smoochy noises. Soon, everything that could make noise had made noise. And in front of it all, standing on a chair, was Benny, waving, swooping, and flinging his arms like a real conductor. He didn't think about the mountain of junk he'd left in every room. He didn't think about the puddles on the kitchen floor, the rug crumpled at the top of the stairs, or the toothpaste sprayed all over the bathroom mirror. Uh-oh. For a few minutes, there was simply a beautiful bunch of noises. All of the noises he could find in the house collected in his head to make something big and amazing. There was only Benny and his very own symphony. Someone behind him cleared their throat loudly and in a way that stuck out from all the other noises. Benny hopped down from his chair and then he saw his parents. They were looking a little bit rough and they were way too quiet. Benny stood still, noticing that the noises in the house were no longer floating around him. He couldn't even hear them inside his head anymore. He looked at his parents, then he looked at his arms, which were still stuck up in the air. For a moment, he wasn't sure what to do next. He thought of the symphony he had seen the night before, and of the tiny conductor, the shiny metal horns, the things with strings, the things that went boom, and even the lady with the big hair. He thought of all the noises the conductor had conjured and collected, and how they'd made them into something else, something amazing, the music. Benny rubbed his head 3 times clockwise, the way he always did when he was thinking. He spun around, smiled proudly, and Benny took a bow. Thanks for listening.